All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Soft Elbows. I'm coming to you live from, I don't know, a room somewhere. It's a mystery. And there's Abby and her elbow and her cup of whatever she
Coffee.
drinks.
It's
Coffee, sure.
coffee.
We'll go with
It is
coffee. No,
coffee.
that's the safe play. Yeah.
That's
Um,
also the real way because I just woke up like 30 minutes ago. So, this will be like the littlest filter that you're ever gonna see with me. Also, I might cough a lot because it's just what I do is I'm like getting warmed up for the day. I've gotta, you know, get all the other stuff out so that I can exist like a normal human.
Not taking the bait. And let's go to our first topic, which is yikes.
I
USA
told you.
Nationals. We've got Abby's favorite event where we do the youths and then the slightly older youths and then the slightly older youths and then I think the junior medium youths come next. And then the old folks, or in this event, it's just called the Open Division. They start. Abby, how you feeling about nationals?
I'm gonna get candid. I'm gonna get real candid here. I I'm feeling very FOMO. I'm excited for my friends who are going to lift. I'm excited for my teammate Hannah Gilmore for going to her first U25s and getting to compete. Some other friends of mine that are going to their first U25s, their first juniors, their first seniors. Our friend Charisse is going to her first senior, so I'm very excited for those folks and my friends who have had the privilege to go to nationals multiple times now, but feeling for myself very bad.
Okay. Um, will you be watching? Will you be commentating? Will you be meditating about what's going on in Colorado Springs?
I will be watching. For said friends, I will be watching. I actually just, I trained with Vic Freeze yesterday and was telling her that this is the first time that I will ever purchase, like, will have, purchased the USAW live stream, to watch everybody. So I will be watching. I will not be commentating. I will be firmly in the Maryland, DC, Virginia areas.
I have a request from the people. They said they sent this to me. They usually send things to DMV Weightlifting. This time they sent it to me. I don't know why. You'll have to take it up
Oh
with them.
boy.
They want you to live stream yourself watching the live stream of USA Nationals and
Nobody wants that.
put that like live record on Instagram on the DMV weightlifting page. I
Just
feel like that would
live
get
live react everything.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't think you saw would appreciate that very much because that's
and
essentially what
that's the beauty of it. We're not going to ask, you know. I actually don't
um
think they would hate. I actually don't think they would hate that. I think they would low key love that.
I actually don't think they would hate that either. I would think I would get some shit for like picking and choosing which like sessions and people I do that for, but I don't
It's
really care.
your
It's
like
this is
what?
my show. It's my Instagram page. This is
Yeah,
my world and you're all just living in it.
yeah.
So preemptively I don't care, but also I may very well do that. That could be fun. That could be fun. Maybe if I'm not by myself. It just being like sad in my apartment by myself, live streaming with me not there. That might be a little sad, but
Well,
if
all your plants are there with you. You named some of them.
I named one of them.
Well,
Um, um, but if I can get someone to hang out with me and do that, then maybe I'll do that.
I feel like Brian's around. You know,
Isn't he
you
going
and
to nationals?
I don't think he'll be there for the full time, but I think he's going to be there for part of the week. Yeah, I don't remember which part, but I'm
It's
just
kind
trying
of
to come up
important.
with friends for you, Abby. I don't know. It's a tough task. You know,
It's a lonely world.
it really
Lonely
is.
world
Yeah.
for a little admin.
All right, so you mentioned Vic Freeze. Obviously,
Yes.
Troy will be there as well. Troy's now lifting in my weight class, as we've talked about before, and I
Uh-huh.
can't wait to see him do things that I will never be able to dream of. But that will
He
be
looks
good.
very strong, by the way.
He's
Like yesterday,
yeah,
he and Vic, they went pretty heavy, and they both lifted just incredibly well, and very precise. Like I don't think I saw him miss a single rep.
yeah. The thing. So I've been training more with them recently, Troy and Vic and Chris, and there's really like clear commonalities between Chris and Troy and Vic, and kind of. I don't mean this to knock anybody else, but it's really fascinating watching the intention and the focus that people like those three bring to training, and it's just on a completely different level than frankly many other people. And it's no surprise then that those three are going to nationals and going to do very well. Again, I'm not trying to knock anybody. It's really fascinating to watch in person. Like every single rep, they are locked in, they are focused. Once that rep is over with, good, bad, indifferent, they move on, and like then the same like intense focus on the next lift. It's very it's got to be a grind and very meticulous and very exhausting, just that component alone. But like seeing them do that every day is very impressive. And again, it's one of the many reasons why they're going to be in Colorado Springs in a couple
Yeah,
weeks. We are recording this about 10 days before nationals is going to begin, so roughly a week and change after this podcast posts will be when folks start lifting out in Colorado Springs. We got
don't they start lifting next weekend?
the youth. I guess that's true. The
Youths.
youth
Yeah.
start. Yeah, that's my fault. I
No, no,
my
no.
brain just goes to seniors. But yes, the multi-layered youth categories, junior categories, whatever.
So maybe Steve, what you're saying is I might have a point with wanting to keep seniors maybe separate.
I mean, I you're way more passionate about that than I am. I just want I just want the
You
bar
don't
to be
have to.
high to get there. I don't care what the level is. Like that's
And
um
on that note,
well, hold on. Well, let's get there in a second. Let's highlight a couple other folks that are going to nationals. So you mentioned
okay.
Troy and
Sorry.
Vic, Maria Hayden, battled back. We've had her on the show. We've had Troy and Vic on the show
Yep.
too, but we had Maria on the show. She's battled back from a very serious injury, and it took a long time for her to do it. But she's come back. She's made the nationals qualifying total. She's going to be at nationals. I am super excited to see her lift. I'm so impressed by the journey back that she's taken. Sharice Creel, you mentioned, is going to be her first nationals. For selfish reasons, I'm very excited about her lifting as well. We've got Emma Hoffman. Pretty much everybody who's going to nationals from DMV weightlifting has been on the show. So I don't want to say like we're responsible for it, but I'm not saying that. Like they can send us a commission some other time. It's okay. Um, um,
How about our friend Big Jake? Is Big Jake going to nationals?
I scoured the start list just yesterday, and I saw Big Meech. Big Meech is going to be there, and I saw Cesar Flores. Has referenced on this show. He's going to be there, and I saw Kane Wilkes, who came down to compete at Lift PD. Kane's going to be there, and I went to the bottom of the start list, and then I scrolled back up, and then I went back down again just to make sure I didn't miss him. And unless Jake has lost a ton of weight and is going to be competing in a new category, I don't think he's going to be there. But
Um,
I'm open to being
yeah.
wrong. I'm always open to being wrong.
I too am open to being wrong. I'm sure he'll text us after this airs, or text me at least, and he'll have something to say. I'm sure. I know he qualified for seniors because he qualified at seniors for seniors this year, last year, um, and B because he has the total from Spring Fling. Maybe it's just a time commitment.
Yeah, he does. I guess we'll play devil's advocate here. He is a newly christened father. It's possible that he's prioritizing his newborn over going to Colorado Springs, which is wild. Can't imagine.
Wild.
Can't imagine. the
Happy
audacity.
Father's Day, Jake.
Oh, that's right. Yes, we are recording this on Father's Day, and so we dedicate the show to him and his very mature and responsible decisions. Great job. You're doing awesome.
Good job, Jake.
Um, two folks I want to highlight who have not yet, hopefully they'll come on, but they have not yet been guests on the show. And so I guess we can surmise that they just did this all on their own without any help from us, which is hard to imagine. Two folks from CHFP, Nicole Mercier and Christine Schiavello. They will both be lifting at Nationals. I think Nicole goes on Friday night, if I remember right, and Christine Saturday afternoon, I believe. But
Yeah.
they're both,
Christine,
for anyone who hasn't seen them lift, they are both very, in addition to being strong, they're very technically proficient lifters. It is really
incredibly
wild just watching
talented.
how smoothly the bar moves when they're
Mhm.
doing snatch, clean, and jerk, any of it.
Yeah. Christine, Christine, I want to talk about her a little bit because
Please.
um, I met her when I trained with you guys at CrossFit Route 7 a few weeks ago. And like I had known of her because I knew that she kicked ass at nationals last year. Um, but she's somebody that I'm really excited as I start coming back from this nonsense to compete with because of
Oh,
everything Steve just said.
brief
Huh.
pause. I forgot to introduce your elbow as our co-host today. So
It's
sorry.
okay. My
Let's
elbow does forgive
we'll take
you.
it from the top. We'll take it from the top. Hey everybody, I'm Steve Yonda. To my right, I believe, is our co-host Abby Richards, and our co-host, the little elbow that could. It's looking better every time. Looking better every time. All right, back
Thanks.
to Christine. So sorry.
Yeah. Um, um, yeah, just again, she's somebody who's an incredibly talented lifter, both in terms of strength and technical prowess and focus. Like, training with her, very similar to what you described with Troy and Vic and Chris. Like, it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different approach to the barbell, than I see from anybody else. And so I'm very excited that her and I like are going to be within the same weight class so that we can actually compete together. And I hope that means that I could have the opportunity to train with her, in the future. So, yep.
Yep. She what I really like about the way that she and her coach Justin Lovingood, they do a really good job. This is part of what I wanted to talk about today is like gearing up for nationals and the different ways that people do it, and they do a really good job of kind of trusting in the process. And what I mean by that is like
I know
I sound
exactly what you mean
like
by
a
this, so go
like a
ahead.
I don't know I sound like
So,
a like Vince Lombardi here. Like I'm about to give everyone the spiel. Um, you know, they don't. I don't often see Christine go heavy in training. They do a really good job of like reinforcing the fundamentals, reinforcing good motor patterns, and it's rare that they go above 85-ish% in training, and it's not what she proves, and this is in part unique to her and a credit to her for being the athlete that she is, but she doesn't need to feel it to know that it's there because she's ingrained that solid motor pattern, and all she's got to do, when it's a little bit heavier, she just got to like push a little harder, but the same mechanics and everything else stays in place. And it's relatively unique to a lot of other training programs that I've seen, that I've experienced, and I think it's really impressive that she's able to do that and just like mentally have that confidence. Like I haven't taken this weight in a couple months or perhaps ever, and she just like trusts that like they've built in all of the little fundamentals and foundational elements that like make it possible, and she believes that, and she goes out there and executes. It's great. Eva Katsaros also going to nationals. She'll be competing on that Sunday. Excuse me. She trains down in the Richmond area with all our friends down there and Big Jake. And is that it? Anybody else? Emma Hoffman. Did I already mention her? She'll be down there.
you did, but she's great, so she was worth mentioning
We can
twice.
mention her twice. Great.
Yep.
Anybody else? Who else am I missing? Anybody?
The
Oh, that's right.
whole
Chris Jimenez. Chris will be down there. I guess we'll talk about him. He's
He's
probably
gonna
going to
try
win
his
another
best.
national title. Yawn. We get it. You're really good at this. Find a different hobby. Just please. The rest of us need something to cling to.
Um,
Um,
He can find a different hobby as long as that hobby is taking pictures of Delta,
Delta, sure. Yes,
his
I
adorable
feel
dog.
like you can work Delta pictures into any hobby, but we're excited to see what venture we berate him into going into next. Okay, now we can get to the topic you very clearly want to talk about, which is your passion for there should be fewer categories of national events.
Pause.
Okay,
Pause. That's not my passion. So let's give some context before we go down this rabbit hole. We can't just
sure.
dive down the hole. So I texted Steve this week because I was like, I am so uninspired. I don't know what to do about the poll. Um, and he sent me two topics, and I picked what felt like the more diplomatic of the two. um,
Boring.
listen, I didn't feel like having to defend my choices to anybody. So, um, anyway, so the poll this week was, how do you feel about the qualifying totals for the nationals championships? I don't I don't know where my words just went, but it wasn't in a very intelligent direction. Um, and the choices were that the category or the qualifying totals are fine, the qualifying totals are too low, and the qualifying totals should be lower. Um, One pattern that I have noticed over the last since I've started doing polls is that most of the lifters who have gone to nationals, or do very well in the national stage or are higher level lifters, they all tend to kind of agree on a response. And that has been consistent. It doesn't matter what the response is, but they all gravitate towards the same opinion, and like independently of one another, because no one the polls are anonymous. And so I find it fascinating the way that people vote and the way that certain like groups of lifters tend to stick together independently with their opinions. Anyway, um so I got some interesting responses to this poll. By and large, I think people think that the qualifying totals are fine. I didn't share my opinion on this one because I just didn't feel like it.
No, it
Um,
was because you were waiting until this recording. Go.
so I think that the qualifying totals are too low. Um,
Gasp. Like,
yes,
oh my God.
I was
You had
thinking
this
about
like pregnant
listen.
pause, like there was going to be some like mind blowing, like, oh,
I was thinking about how I wanted to articulate this. It was pointed out to me after our last episode that I made the wrong word selection in one sentence at some point in our last show. And so now I'm just like, I already overthink the words that come out of my mouth, but now I'm extra overthinking the words that come out of my mouth. Um, so the way that I see it again, and the reason I believe this way is because once again, I think the national championship should just be separate, and that everyone who hits the total to get to the national championship should compete separately without having to worry about what's going on with youth, junior, U23, U25. Um, and if we had that, then I think we would notice that there are a lot of lifters who are signing up, and we would have A, B, C, D, E sessions at nationals, which I just don't think should be a thing. I think nationals should be very difficult to qualify for. I think it should be one or two sessions max, to decide who is going to be the national champion. And that's just kind of how I see it, is that it should be a prestigious event, and it should be something that everyone should aspire for, but it shouldn't be like a gimme.
what? But isn't that the way it is right now? I mean, for senior nationals, I don't. I mean, I went through the whole start list yesterday. I don't think there's more than two sessions per weight class.
I think it's because there's a lot of people not doing it this year. Um,
Well, how do you? how do we excuse me, how do we make that judgment? Like, are people choosing not to go for any number of reasons, or are they not able to go because the qualifying totals are higher? I mean, how do we discern that?
If you look at USAW actually has on their website, and I know this because as a baby lifter, I found this because I was like just so curious about how I stacked up against weightlifters. USAW has a ranking of every single lifter who has competed in every single category ever. And you can go on their website and see all of these results and what the actual rankings are.
Yeah.
And like if you go and look at that list, like there are a lot of lifters that are on that list ranked very high that are not on that start list. And so I I just think that um I don't know. I think that there is yeah, if nothing else, I want USAW to just take a closer look
At
at
what?
at the totals and
Okay.
how they determine them. Like how did we land on this number and why what data is there to support that this number is the number every single year? Because prior to the weight class change that just happened, I don't think the qualifying totals at least for like the 71 category and the 64 categories that I've competed in, those haven't changed since 2018. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
mean, but
confused why that is and what data there is to support that.
so is your opinion that they should go up every year just because, or because we assume that everyone collectively is pushing the sport? There are more people getting into the sport. There are more talented people, more strong, more people who are strong, and the
Yeah,
numbers should go up because every year more people are getting better and
better.
stronger
Yeah,
and
the
larger.
latter. What you just said.
So, but don't the numbers bear out that that's not necessary? I mean, unless we're aiming for a senior nationals where only 11 people qualify per weight class. Um, doesn't the fact that there's only two sessions mean that they gamed it correctly, whether they did that intentionally or not?
Who's to say?
I mean, we are. That's why we're
I
discussing it.
No, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I think it's unrelated. I do truly think that it is unrelated, and I think that if there was, data collected, I think it would support higher qualifying totals.
um,
Did I lose you?
no, sorry, I'm trying to coordinate with a potential mid-show guest.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Stay
uh,
tuned.
will we have a guest? Will we not?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think USAW is in a hard spot, right? Because they, I think they should. If we had JP back on the show, I think he would agree. Like they want the best of the best to be there, but determining, that cutoff is not as I don't know. I don't. It's. I've never been in this position, so I'm not going to pretend like I understand. But I imagine it's not as easy or as arbitrary or as like cold and calculated as like this is the line, and like everyone else can go like, you know, piss off essentially. Like, um, do do they put it at a number where they know, based on, they've got data from every weightlifting event in the country that's sanctioned. Do they put it at a number where they know there's a chance that they could end up with 25 to 30 people qualifying, or do they put it at a higher number, even if that number is 2 kilos more, that significantly lowers the possibility and potentially runs the risk of, I think in Chris's session. Now Chris is in the lowest weight class, so I think that contributes as well. But do you set the number at a point where if a couple people don't show up who you were expecting to, maybe you've only got 8 people in the pick your weight class. I agree. I agree that the standard should be high, especially for senior nationals, and it should be significantly higher than it is for AO finals. I know we're supposed to call it like the virus finals now. I'm just not gonna. Um, it should be significantly higher than AO finals because I want to see a different caliber of athlete at senior nationals than at AO finals, and certainly as opposed to AO series. I don't know that it needs to arbitrarily go up every year. I think
Well,
if it ends up being what it is this year, where we've got essentially, from what I can remember, 2 sessions per weight class for the predominant for the overwhelming majority of weight classes. I think that means that they got it right. I don't know how we say, well, they should have put it a kilo or two higher just to change the qualifying total from last year when the results don't bear out that they needed to do that.
I'm not saying that they need to arbitrarily change it every year. What I'm saying is there are some years that I think that the performance at the years prior support higher qualifying totals.
Okay.
And just in general across the population of weightlifting, I think performances support higher qualifying totals. Not necessarily that they should go up every year.
Okay. I'm curious because you made mention earlier the you elitist senior nationals qualifying folks
Oh
always seem
my
to
God.
independently group together. So are they in agreement with you that the qualifying total should be higher?
I'm no snitch, but maybe that was the result.
I don't know.
Well,
It's anonymous.
so
Like,
all
what do you?
right. All right. So sorry, guys. This week I will snitch. Yeah, that was kind of what happened. Is that the folks that go to seniors every single year, they all kind of gravitated towards higher qualifying totals. The folks that have just qualified for their first nationals, be it youth, junior, U25, senior, whatever, or are still like working towards that qualifying total, they
Yeah.
gravitated towards the total should stay the same. And then um it was kind of mixed bag for totals should be lower. But what I found was interesting there, and what I
There's,
think, what I
there's only one category left, Abby. You can't tell me it was a mixed bag. Like the people who think the qualifying total should be lower are the people who aren't even close to qualifying for nationals. You can say it; it's all right. Like,
it's okay, Steve said it, so I don't have to.
okay, I will
But what I
stand on
felt
that. That's fine.
That's
Like,
fine. Stay on business. What I thought was interesting though is that like what I think is at play is that the folks that have qualified for seniors over and over and over again, it's almost like we want a new goalpost, right? We want the goalpost to move so that we can push
right.
ourselves towards like a more difficult goal. We want to increase the difficulty. When you win Mario Kart at 100 cc's, you're going to want to go and compete at 150 cc's. All
That is
right?
the best analogy that's ever been given on this show.
Thank you.
We
For
should just
once,
end it now. It's not going to get any better than this.
it's like again, this is peak. So the person who called me out for not articulating well last week, I hope this was to your standards. Anyway, then the folks that have not qualified or have just qualified, like it makes sense that that goalpost feels right for them because they've only just hit it or they're still trying to hit it, so they don't want it to move.
Right.
I think that's just what's at play.
And
And
and it makes sense from a perspective standpoint that the people who are nowhere near qualifying for nationals want the. I mean, it's. I'm not talking shit.
no,
It's the truth.
it's just the truth.
Everything that you're describing has to do
Yeah,
with perspective, right? Because the perspective of the people who know that they can qualify for a level like senior nationals, I get it. They want to have to aspire for something greater. And
right,
so that makes sense. And the people who just qualified for it or barely qualified for it, they're like, whew, all right, let's just keep it where it is, guys. That seemed like a good, like a good level. That makes sense because that's their perspective. And the people who aren't close, overwhelmingly, probably want the qualifying totals to be lower because that means they've got further to go to get to a place that they aspire to be. That makes sense. So
right.
I'm not disparaging anybody. That's
No,
just like the reality of
just the
perspective.
reality. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. I did receive some answers like on the next slide that was like that I thought was interesting. For the most part, I think the opinions on this one like kind of made sense. And then there were a lot of people who were like ditch the U23 and U25 categories. Which I think is an interesting take. And a lot of people shared it actually.
Were
Be it the
you one of
ones
those people?
I I am not, only because I don't really understand why they exist. And so
Wait, sorry. You're of the opinion that they should not ditch U23 and U25s?
I want to better understand what they're there for before I have an opinion on that
That
because
is crazy. I wish that we had been recording during our pre-episode meeting where you were like, I'm about to drop it on
but
them.
you no, I didn't say that. I said we're going to go down a rabbit hole. And here's the
Got it.
rabbit hole that we're about to go down because
Right.
I was of the belief that U23 got added because I know at Europeans they do a U23 thing.
Right.
And I thought that that was like an IWF thing that like happened and that they do like similar to how university does like a worlds or like
Right.
they do the junior Pan Ams and stuff. I thought it was because that existed for U23 in the IWF. U25, I don't know why it exists. I know that it existed like or no, actually I don't even I can't even think of a situation why U25 exists for like an international standpoint. What I was just thinking of was how back in the day when you could be any age and compete at universities, you could sign up for your community college, take like one course, and that would qualify you as a 35-year-old to compete
Sure.
at university championship.
Yeah,
Um,
we had like I believe a guy who was a former Olympian, like, but still was age or like
right.
took a college class and then ended up like
Yeah. Well, that was how Sarah Robles, that was how she qualified for the 2016 Olympics was, she needed this international meet under her
yeah,
belt after her suspension. And so she jumped into universities to do university worlds and
yeah,
then she got bronze at the Olympics.
right.
Um, but I can't think of a situation that U25 exists for that. And so like I just think it begs the question of what are we actually doing with these two categories and why do they kind of exist? And I think that's why people share that opinion is we don't know why that they're really there and like it's almost like an extra I don't know. Like it
Well,
almost sorry.
I think there's a very clear answer to it, but I mean we can flesh this out a little bit. But remember a couple episodes ago we were having the conversation of for local meets, do people prefer things to be organized by weight class or by start or by entry total? And one of the arguments that was made for organizing by weight class is because then everybody gets to have their moment at the end. Like when their session ends, we get the podium set up and like you get your
Mhm,
medals and like and that is a valuable reason that's not without merit because people want to have their moment. They worked hard,
mhm,
they did well, and now they want to be able to say like, hey, like this is the 30 seconds to a minute where everybody the spotlight's on me and I get to be acknowledged for the work that I did. I think that's worthwhile and frankly not a factor that I had considered before you and I think it was Beth Lamoureux brought that up. I thought it was
yeah,
great.
that's right.
But
Mhm,
I think we can extend that out to the national level. If I'm 24 years old and I know that I'm not going to be able to snatch and clean and jerk on the same level as somebody who's 5 years older than me, why wouldn't I want to enter a competition where I've got a better chance of getting on a podium in a national level, event and getting that recognition for my hard work? I think,
mhm,
and from USAW's standpoint, that's an easy decision because it makes them more money. Like
mhm,
we don't need to like shy away from that. Like USAW does this in part because more people will sign up because that's going to be an easier path for them to get a medal and to get that recognition. And so USAW takes advantage of that and gives them the environment in which they can have that moment while also making more money. I don't know. like
yeah.
if USAW could get away with having like a U every year of your 20s, 23, 24, 25, 20, like I bet you if they thought that was feasible, they would do it because it would make them more money. Like it's this is a I got they're
No,
there in part to grow the sport. They're also there in part to survive and exist, and you can't do that without more funds. So
yeah, I hear you. I still think that those folks, like, if they were, well, no, because I guess I'm doing mental gymnastics now. If you can't tell, because I guess the qualifying totals, I don't even know what they are. But I know that they are lower than seniors. So I guess if you're not a junior, but you're not quite at the level of a senior, it does
right,
make sense that like it is something for you to do.
right.
Um, yeah, okay. But
So are you?
that was a big opinion that people shared and um I think it's for the reason of like, once again, like it doesn't have any international bearing, so like what are we doing? Um,
But
but
it doesn't have any international bearing. That like thought like legitimately only exists for like a small tiny fraction of the people who weightlift in this country.
yeah.
Like 98.9% of the lifters in this country, like whether there's an international pathway in this weight or in this
Mhm.
age group or not is not the point. Like, so I for anyone who's like, wow, but like, what does it matter if they can't, qualify for an international team as a U20 whatever? Yeah, I don't know that that's
Mhm.
relevant to whether it stays or goes. I don't know.
Well,
Like, it's not, as long as they're not like significantly lowering the total, like to a point where, again, we get to a part where we've got, an F or a G session in a U23. Like, at
Mhm.
that point, like, I think that's probably not the time or the place for that, kind of thing. Like, if it's part of Nationals Week, the
Right.
standard should be high in whatever the age group, whatever the weight class is. And as long as that standard is high enough to support, I think two sessions is the sweet spot, an A and a B session. If you've got more than that, then the standard is probably too low. And if that's what you got, I think you probably hit it on the head.
Yeah, that's fair. I think my beef, and this is just like a me problem, where my beef comes is like I I'm also just in general, I don't like when lifters don't have like a level of humility, especially when you make it to that level. Like the reality is 99.89% of us like are not going to make it to the highest level. We're not going to get named to the national team. We're not going to go to the Olympics. We're not going to compete internationally. It's just not going to happen. And we can aspire to that and that's wonderful. But I do not love the mindset of lifters that are like, I'm going to nationals, like, and it acting to Steve made a joke about these elitist seniors that want to be separate. And it doesn't come from that place of like, I'm better than you. Like it's that piece comes from, I think the national championship should be like the best of the best. That doesn't say, that's not to say that like the national championship, the seniors are better than everyone else. It's not. Um what I can't stand, and like I see this all too often, is lifters that, they medal in their respective category and then they're on their high horse. The example I gave Steve, I was perusing social media at one point and I saw this lifter who, her bio was that she was the second best 71 kilo female weightlifter in the country, and she was not in the A session at senior nationals. She was not in the A session even at juniors. um, I think she medaled in like, I don't even know if it was U23 or 25. It might have been,
Whatever.
yeah, 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 yeah. And it was just like, bro, like, respectfully, you clean and jerked 80 kilos, which is, a respectable number, but you are not on the same level as Olivia Reeves, who is the best 71 kilo weightlifter in the country. You're not even on the same level as Kate Vibert, who is, depending on the day, the second best 71 kilo weightlifter in the country. Now she's having a baby, but still remains that she has like a ridiculous total. She's a ridiculous lifter. Meredith Alwyn, Ava Biesterfield, like all of these women who, are putting up ridiculous numbers, and you want to sit there and act like you're on the same level. I can't stand that mentality. And that's just one example, but that mentality runs rampant in weightlifting and I hate
Yeah.
it.
I mean, certainly I would also hope that people would be more mature and more realistic, but um,
But here we are.
well, I guess I don't know who you're referring to. I don't
I don't even
know.
remember who I'm referring to. I just remember that I saw it one time and I was like, what the fuck is this?
and then thought to yourself, I'm going to spend the next half an hour doing research to figure out whether she's actually the second best.
No,
Because you
I
wouldn't
like
have known
clicked
all
on
that
her page.
automatically. You would have
No,
had to
I
have gone
clicked
and
on
done
her page and
research,
saw
Abby.
like the lifts that she had pinned to her
I love how
profile
much
that like
I
got
love how
her
much
her
real estate
medal.
she owns in your head.
What?
And I love how much real estate this girl owns in your head. Um,
No.
anyway,
Okay. Whatever,
here's
Steve.
the only thing that I can think of is, and I'll take your specific example out of it. I don't know that girl. I don't know what's going on, but I can imagine, as someone who's never qualified for senior nationals, I can imagine that the first time you qualify, it is a big deal. And so, if you, to your original point of, people, kind of peacocking and being like, I'm, this, I'm that, whatever, like, I can imagine a scenario in which someone who, gets to that level for the first time, whether they've been doing the sport for years or just been doing it for a couple, a short period of time, whatever, and you think, you're feeling yourself. You think you're the shit. And like, I don't, it's not that I like think that that's the way you should be, but I can imagine, why that might play out. And I also imagine that, time and maturity and experience takes care of that on its own. Right. So that
Yeah.
saying, whatever lifters you're thinking of in your head, or the folks who are watching, whatever, somebody who falls into this category, I imagine, I really hope that the second, and certainly the third or subsequent time that they qualify for nationals, that they're not quite, walking around puffing their chest peacocking as much, because they have gotten better perspective on, and hopefully some maturity in understanding, like,
Yeah.
what that means, and kind of, the grand scheme of things. So,
Yeah. And that's fair. I think
as,
back
as
to my
long as
first.
people aren't like being like overly malicious about it and like running up to people on the street and being like, I'm a senior national weightlifter and you're not, so fuck you. Like, as long as people aren't doing that, like, I it's not my personality. I would hope that if I qualified for senior nationals, I wouldn't be doing that, but I can understand why, that might play out, especially the first time, because it's a big deal. That you elitist senior, in nationals qualifiers probably don't appreciate this, because for the rest of us, it's a struggle to get there. But when it is a higher level, it is, higher than all the, it's AO finals, AOC or series. So when you get to that level, I imagine it does feel pretty awesome to be able to walk around and like know that about yourself. So it's I guess what I'm saying is, the first time around, I'll give you a little grace. And every time thereafter, I expect a little bit more maturity and a little bit more humility as to how you're
Yeah.
going to handle that
That's
recognition.
fair. I mean, I guess maybe and this is just maybe a me problem, is like, I think back to my first seniors and I think, oh my, like the imposter syndrome that I had when I qualified. And like, I just remember thinking, like, do I really, like, I don't belong here. Like, what am I doing? Like, I hope I don't get last. And it was the same at AO finals. It was the same at the first AO3 that I did. And so maybe that's just a me problem and I'm projecting this me problem onto people that are more confident than I am. I don't know, who's to say. Um that's just my opinion and you don't have to like
But
it.
I think that's just the other end of the spectrum, right? So you get some people who qualify for senior nationals the first time, and they're like feeling themselves and puffing their chest and peacocking, and like, and I imagine that's probably to cover up some serious anxiety that's going on. And they're projecting a little bit, I imagine. But you were on the other end of the spectrum, and either way, I would expect, the second, the third, the subsequent times that you guys qualify for those events, that it levels out and you end up meeting at the middle, where everyone's just kind of like, all right, this is cool, but like now we got tasks to accomplish and things like that.
Yeah.
We have, to my left, yes, my
Yes.
left, yes, um, the one and only Christian Carter. Very kind, for him to pop in and join us on today's show. Christian, for anybody who doesn't know, is he runs RP, Weightlifting Club, Renaissance Periodization. He's got a number of talented lifters, some of whom we've already mentioned, that are going to nationals this year: Troy Freeze, Vic Freeze, Maria Hayden. He's also, the director of strength and conditioning at, James Madison University. So he also has his hand in different sports. I'm sure there are more than this, but I know you do a lot of work with volleyball players, soccer players, and kind of, I imagine, mixing in weightlifting concepts and components into their training off season or whatnot. But we are super excited to have him on the show. Christian, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Sorry for my tardiness. I was running some errands and totally lost track of time.
That's all right. No
Dang.
worries.
Forgot
You
to
know
set my
what? It
alarm.
happens to the
Yeah,
best of
I was like,
us.
son of a gun. I am an asshole. So can I curse on this?
You
Yeah.
can absolutely curse on
Okay.
this. Yes,
There's
we
cursing.
will.
Cursing is allowed.
All right, we're good then.
So Christian, we're talking about nationals. We've kind of come at a bunch of different angles for nationals this year. But I'm curious, as someone you've coached a number of national lifters, and when you are preparing those lifters for an event like senior nationals, does it change in any way from, like, if they were going into a weightlifting meet, or sorry, a local meet, or even an AO series? Like, is the way that you work with them different? Is the way that you program for them different? Is the just the general approach, does it vary any when it's a meet of a greater magnitude, like the ones coming up in a couple weeks?
Um, I mean, for programming wise, yeah. I mean, programming for AO and nationals is definitely different than for those individual lifters than it is for a local meet, because we're usually not peaking for the local meet. It's usually like a train through or just more platform experience for the national level lifters. So the programming is certainly different. Like, we're trying to run a true peak to do our best at nationals and AO finals. And then the local meets are usually just more meet experience. Maybe we're playing with a water cut, maybe we're trying different openers, or it's just let's just go have fun with some friends. So the local meets just kind of depend. But yeah, definitely programming wise, psychologically too, I think it's a massive difference. And I think that's just human nature. I'm not a sports psychologist, but
Yeah.
I think it's a normal human response to be hyped for the big meets and be less hyped for the local meets if you're a national level lifter or international level lifter, for sure. Like, it's just a different adrenaline rush. It's like you mentioned some of my experience in strength and conditioning. Like, we have that problem when we play a power four team and that's a top 5 team in the country. Like, we're super hyped and we're going to give our best effort. And then if we play a team that we perceive as the little sisters of the poor, like, we just think we're going to walk through them and we let down psychologically. So I think it's the same for weightlifting. You're going to get hyped for the big time ones.
You've got a lot of formal education in physiology, sports performance, things like that, but you've also got a pretty decent background in philosophy and psychology. How does that inform, I guess, when you're managing the mental and emotional approach to a bigger meet, to a bigger game, to a bigger whatever? Like, how does that inform kind of how you work with an athlete gearing up for those events?
That's a great question. It's definitely more challenging to try to get my perspective, I guess, and my mentality across remote coaching and not having, because almost everyone I have is remote. I have 2 people that are like semi in person right now that I see once a week. So everyone else is remote. So it's hard to get across kind of like what my messaging is remote. Sometimes that's a challenge of remote coaching. I think that the world that a lot of us exist in. So I don't know. I guess my perspective is like, I try, at least outwardly, I try not to show any anxiety or worry or like, I'm never like, this is a hobby for most everyone. There's only a handful of people that are really making money on this and like doing it as a career. So a lot of us are just doing it because we really enjoy it and see how far we can push ourselves.
Sure.
So like, I'm not ever going to get upset. Like, we're all just doing this for fun, right? It's the same as like playing pickup basketball. Like, we're playing because it's fun to lift heavy with our friends. So I'm never going to get upset or angry at someone for like doing poorly or having a bad outlook or something. Like, I'm not going to yell and scream. Like, I've seen that in the back room of other coaches, like literally verbally abusing their athletes. And I'm like, what the hell, man?
You've seen that?
Yeah, I won't name names, but I've seen like coaches yell at their lifters of like, what the fuck are you doing? Get your head out of your ass. Which, like, there's a time and place for that. I'm not going to judge entirely how you interact. Like, maybe your athlete and that's what they need. Right. They need to slap across. Like, I haven't actually seen that, but like maybe they need the proverbial slap across the face, get your head out of your ass. So everyone reacts differently. That's just not how I coach. I'm not going to yell and scream. I try to remain calm and have some amount of equanimity in how I react to things and what I'm picking and choosing. But to try to get that across to them is like, this will sound familiar to the lifters that I have, but like if you win the Olympics or win the national meet or win the local meet, you still got to go to work the next day. Like you still got to go to class.
Right.
Nothing really changes. And if you bomb out, you still got to go to work.
Right.
You still got to go to class. So like the world is not ending. War is not breaking out. Like, yeah, it sucks when you don't do well. I've bombed out several times and it's not fun. And you just want one more chance. And I've gone 6 for 6 one time in my entire weightlifting career. And like, you know, so it's
and they didn't give you the day off work at the day after you went 6 for 6?
I was unemployed at the time.
Oh, well.
I was unemployed and living at home. So
he gave
no, my
himself the day
parents
off
did not
work.
give me the day
Oh,
off.
man.
But yeah, I don't know. That's a long-winded answer of a non-answer of how do I get across some of my, like the way that I think. I don't know. I try to never get too high, never get too low. Like Troy won American Open this past year, and that was the first time he was on top of the podium at a national meet, and it's super exciting. But like, I'm just not the kind of person who's going to jump around and yell and scream for cheering, or vice versa. If you bomb out, I'm not going to like chastise you. I've had lifters bomb out, and I'm just like, sucks, man. Like, I try to figure out what I could have done better programming wise, attempt selection wise, like where did we screw up, or like sometimes shit just happens. That's just the nature of sport. Sometimes shit happens.
Yeah. Now you run RP's weightlifting team. Most people know Renaissance Periodization for the weight management standpoint. You know, and I know you do some of that too. You work with Chris Camaneras and some other local lifters. How did you come to be in like a partnership essentially with RP to form this weightlifting team? How did that come about?
Purely at the right place at the right time. So Mike Isertel and Nick Shaw started RP around 2012 when they went to undergrad together at Michigan. And Isertel and I went to grad school together at ETSU. And we were just in the computer lab one day, and he was like, hey, me and my friend are starting this company. Do you want to be our weightlifting guy? And I was just like, sure. I was like, this isn't going to go anywhere, but it's something to add to my resume to say I'm a consultant for weightlifting coaching. So yeah, I was just right place at the right time. And at the start, I honestly had no clients for the first 2 years that they were building RP.
Who was your first client?
Oh, okay. I don't remember. But like I didn't.
You were going to say like Troy or Vic, like
well, okay. So weightlifting wise, I would say the first person I started, first person I really started working with during RP days was probably Andy Angel, who has lifted on and off. So yeah, he was probably the very, very first one.
Okay.
And then Troy most consistently. I've been working with Troy now. I posted the other day, this peaking block for nationals is the 100th block of training that we've done together, which is
cool.
A long time. So like if you assume an average of 4-ish weeks,
right?
Like we've been at this for a minute. So yeah, all right. Starting with RP was just right place, right time. I initially started the club, and I just wanted to get back into weightlifting because since grad school, like I lost the love for weightlifting in grad school, and I just wanted to get back into it because I just missed the camaraderie and going to meets and the pomp and circumstance of meets and stuff. And I initially just started like I just offered coaching for free, and then it got to the point where it's like I bought all the equipment in the corner. I bought the jerk blocks and the platforms and 2 sets of weights, and I was like, I can't afford to keep doing this for free, so I had to start charging, and I lost half my team. But you know, I worked with a lot, like almost all college students at the time, so it's understandable when you go from nothing to asking for money. A lot of them don't have it. So
yeah.
When sorry,
go ahead, Abby.
When you started working with Troy and Vic too, when did you think, or when did you know that you had something, like when did you know that they were going to be at a caliber that's above? You know, when did you know that Troy was going to be competing for medals? When did you know that Vic was going to be an A session lifter? Did you have like a moment like that? Was it early on? What was that like?
Yeah, so I kind of inherited Troy around he was kind of on his own, but he was around like a 115, 120, like 145, 150 lifter at the time, as a 77. And he actually, the funny story is how I started working with him is I heard of him. Like people were like, "Hey, have you heard of this guy?" And I was like, "Oh, people have told me about him." And he lifts in the rec center. And one of my interns at the time saw him on the bus, didn't know who he was, just like knew of him, and was like, "Hey, you should talk to my supervisor. He coaches weightlifting." So like literally just the pure chance that they were on the bus together, and my intern at the time spoke up and said, "You should talk to my supervisor," and that's how we linked up. And when we started working together, I was just like, "Dang, this dude's like fast as shit under the bar." He has a wrestling background, so he like I know he's going to be tough and he's not going to be afraid of the bar. So I think honestly, like from the first time I worked with him, I was like, all right, our first meet together was to qualify for nationals in 2017, I think was when it was in Chicago. And he did like 120, 153, I think is what his numbers were. Cause I think the qualifying was like 270 something. Yeah. And I was just like, all right, like you made the B session. And I was like, all right, like, you know, middle weight classes for men are really tough. Like it's just like 71-ish, 69,
Right.
76 for women are like, if you're a weight trained male, like chances are you weigh somewhere around like 180, 190 pounds. If you're a weight trained female, you're probably like 160, 170 pounds. So like, I was just like, yeah, this is going to be a tough weight class. There's a lot of really good people, but yeah, I thought he had potential right away from the get-go. Vic was, she was in my class that I taught, and I saw her walk in and I was like, dang, she's yoked, man. I was like, I always would tell my class like, hey, I coach weightlifting. If you're interested, come talk to me after class. And she never said anything until the very end of the semester. And she was like, hey, can you teach me how to snatch and clean and jerk? So like, I think probably that was probably 2018, 2019, 2018, I think we started working together, 18 or 19. But I think probably her third or fourth meet is probably when I was just like, okay, she could be pretty good. Like most people starting out, I don't know. She's probably going to watch this and be like, Christian, why'd you say that? But like her first couple local meets her snatches were all over the show. Like a lot of people, like the nerves are there. And you're just like, holy cow, like I've never seen you lift like that before. What the hell happened? So like she's worked out a lot of that anxiety to her credit. So we're a lot more confident going into snatches and being aggressive on openers now. But yeah, I would say like third or fourth meet, I was like, okay, like things are starting to click here. Maria was an intern way back when I started. She graduated. She did CrossFit for a little while, and I would always bug her of like, get into weightlifting. And I told her one time when she just like dropped in to lift on a weekend, I said, if you switch to weightlifting, I was like, I'll get you qualified for nationals in less than a year. I'll get you on the podium in less than a year, and I'll get you on an international team in 2 years. And in less than a year, she was on the podium at, I think, Detroit or maybe the one before that. I can't remember. She finished on the podium. And then unfortunately during COVID, she was invited to a meet in Singapore, like one of the self-funded ones. And
That's
that
so
was like
cool.
that was when there was like a new variant that broke out and no one was going anywhere. And so it was unfortunate timing. But yeah, Maria, I knew, I was like, her lifts already are A session lifts, and that she could contend.
You mentioned Maria, and we've had her on the show recently. We talked to her in depth about kind of the injury that she had and kind of the road back from it. But from your perspective as her coach, I mean, how was it kind of navigating that with her, not just from a programming standpoint? I mean, that, you just kind of mold it to what the lifter can do at the time, but like the mental and emotional side of that path back and it not being linear and all that stuff. How was that from your perspective?
It was hard. I mean, she could tell you how challenging that was. I would say all the credit goes to her and the work that she put in. I think a lot of people aren't willing to understand or admit that, like, to be really good at weightlifting, you need a team of people to support you. Like, it's not just your weightlifting coach. Yeah. And I would venture a guess if interviewed like everyone on the world team in the Olympics, like it's not just you and your coach. Like you have teammates, and you should have a good physio, and you should have a dietitian or a nutritionist that's helping you. Certainly a sports psych if you're not. Like I know, like I have a friend who's a sports psych that's worked with Troy a little bit on just like some mental cues and mental approach to stuff. It's like you can't do it on your own. And to Maria's credit, like she put in a ton of the work, and it was a lot of like, hey, like after the surgery, I'm here to help if you need me to. Otherwise, it's like 99% just your rehab. She had a really frustrating rehab where she got some not great PT from the first place she went. And then we linked up with another guy in town who's been phenomenal. And like within a few sessions, like had massive improvements in range of motion. So it was super frustrating to have kind of like that frozen shoulder stuff and working back to it. And after that, it's just been a lot. Like once it was like, okay, we can start putting a bar overhead now. It's just been, we're just going to take what the day gives us. And it's still that way. We're like, she might have days where like, man, shoulder is not feeling it today. It's like, all right, like we'll just revert to like going lighter or doing some pulls, or we'll just change the derivative we're doing to one that's more comfortable. So yeah, it's been a kind of take what we can get on certain days. And now we're back to like 90-ish% of like her all-time best. So from here, we're just keep climbing and try to get back to the podium.
Great. I mean, we've talked about you've been coaching weightlifting for a long time, not just with individual athletes. You've been with Troy for a long time. You've been with Vic, with Maria for a long time, but you've just been in the sport coaching it for a long time. And I imagine that most, if not all, weightlifting coaches who have been in it for that long of a period of time, you go through like different iterations of kind of your overall philosophy or your overall approach. Have you gone through those different cycles? Has your approach been the same the whole time? And if you have, come to, taking different types of approaches, your revelation moment, if you will, do you remember, when that was or what that was that prompted it to
Sure.
kind of adjust?
Yeah. I don't know if there's been like particularly like one or two instances where I'm like, oh, like this is what I'm shifting gears towards. A lot of my influence came so my coach was Mike Catone and Roger Nielsen. So like I'm heavily influenced by like most people in every sport. Like
Sure.
You're influenced by the people that coached you. So I'm heavily influenced by the way Catone programmed. So if people don't like the way I do stuff, they can yell at Mike. But he influenced a lot, like the way he organizes stuff. And I still will go home to Chicago, and I'll try to see him once or twice a year, and we'll just talk shop and like, what's the latest thing he's learned? What is he experimenting with? And then maybe that fits in with some of my lifters and the way I'm doing things, or I'll talk about issues that I'm having of like, I can't get like this to click with this particular lifter. We keep having this problem. Like, what do you think? And it might just be like at the time when like Piros was hanging around a lot and Dave Esther, we just talk shop, and like I would just steal some ideas. I would say probably one of the bigger shifts that I've had, especially with Troy and Vic and Maria at times too, was I shifted to a much more high-low model. So like I have a post about this on the RP Weightlifting Instagram page pinned at the top if anyone wants to read more about it. But it's like we're going to try to consolidate. This is like an idea taken a lot from strength and conditioning and track and field of like, we're going to try to consolidate the highest stress, high intensity stressors on one day. And, weightlifting is always high stress, high intensity, but we're going to try to do more full lifts and our heavier, like higher intensity strength exercises on one day. And then we're going to do more technical drill, lighter variations on the next day, so that we have this kind of undulation of stressors as opposed to just like Bulgarian approach of go heavy all the time. And I know like plenty of people have had success with go hard all the time. I think it's easier to do when you're younger because you have more testosterone than you know what to do with if you're a male lifter. I think it's harder to do when you're 28, 30, 32 years old and you have a full-time job and you're on your feet all day. And it's, I think that's probably been the biggest shift. And I also got more shifted towards, and I remember Mike telling me he did this with Tara Knott. And this used to be like in the early USA level 1 club education stuff, is like they would talk about like your traditional periodized block is like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks up and then a deload or something like that. He always talks about, and this was taught early in the USAW level 1 days, was like 2-3 weeks up, deload, and then a peak week. Like your hard week came after the deload, and then you'd start another phase. And I started doing that with Troy and Vic, and I think it's paid a lot of dividends.
Okay.
That like we can really get after it in that heavy week. Then the week 1 after the next phase coming off of that, I kind of have to make like introductory. So our phases end up being a little bit longer. We have more time to kind of build and accumulate volume and intensity across that block. That's probably been the biggest change in the last couple of years, is shifting to more of that model. And I tend to run that, I don't know, 3-ish phases out from nationals, like when we really start, or American Open, when we really start our prep. Like when we're early off season, it's like, I'm just going to smash you with a bunch of volume, and then we'll take the deload when we need it.
We've all been there.
Yep. So yeah, the first phase after nationals and AO is welcome back.
So very, very Bulgarian, a long way out, and then we kind of get to the okay, we'll take care of you now. Like
yeah, like I'll still follow high low. It's just like it's just going to be like more volume.
Yeah.
Like we'll either do more volume, but like it just depends. Like if you need strength, like we're gonna step back on some of the weightlifting derivatives, and I'm gonna smash you with some leg volume or whatever.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If your strength is good and your lifts are just not clicking, or they're not working, or you got bad positions at something, like I'm gonna smash you with volume from hangs, blocks, position work, complexes, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. We've got I imagine you'll be out there with everybody in Colorado Springs. Is that right?
Yep.
Do you have we've got some local lifters who this will be their first national meet. Do you have any advice for them? We've talked about it. It's a different beast, going into a meet like this as opposed to, frankly, any other meet that most of the lifters in the country are going to be likely to participate in. Do you have any advice as somebody who's coached athletes through that, kind of what to expect or how to approach it, or things to tell yourself, things like that?
Have fun, make lifts. And it's a lot easier to have fun when you make lifts.
All right. And how about for any coaches who are going to be coaching out there for the first time?
Oh man, well I can't. It's funny. I came on right when Abby was talking about imposter syndrome. I have imposter syndrome every time I'm in the back. I like look at the other coaches and I'm like, I should not be coaching against you. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I feel like I know what I'm doing, but then like I get back there and I'm like, what the hell are the rules? Who's going first here? Like, what rule changed? I don't remember. And I'm like if we're not contending for a medal or a position on an international team or moving up the rankings, like I just want everyone to lift heavy and like try to like PR. So if I don't think if it's not like I'm trying to beat you and like get a medal or something or positioning, like I'll just be like, hey, does he or she need more rest? Like I can bleed the clock a little bit. Like I'm here to, like we're all here to have fun and like make lifts and try to do the best we can. Unless I'm trying to beat you, and then I'm going to try to beat you, and I'm going to try to fuck you over. But make lifts, have fun. If you're coaching for the first time, I say this as somebody who's like super introverted. I don't like it. I don't like attention. Me agreeing to do this podcast, I was like, oh gosh, I really don't like having eyes on me. I don't like people talking about me. I don't like being the center of attention. So I just ask people for like guidance or help of like, if you're like, hey, I don't really know what the hell I'm doing. How do you count warm-ups or whatever? Like just ask. Like the worst anyone's going to say is like, I can't help you right now. I'm super busy. And then you just try somebody else. Like, and if somebody is an asshole to you about it, like fuck them.
Yeah. Yeah. Abby.
Like
What the hell did I do?
I haven't really like run into issues in the back where like anyone's been super rude where I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like that guy or that woman's a dick. Like weightlifting's like a pretty friendly sport overall.
Yeah.
And honestly, like one of the things I look forward to the most about American Open and Nationals is like getting to go to a city that I might not normally go to. Exploring the city, like checking out stuff, going to the downtown. Like I'm stoked to go back to Colorado Springs. I thought the downtown was super cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to twist my arm to go to Colorado. I love Colorado. But like Wilmington, Tucson, like why the heck would I ever go to those cities? And it gives me an opportunity to go to those places, meet people. And like I said, like I'm introverted, so I'm not really going to put myself out there to like people I don't know. Like I'll just be like, oh my gosh, I follow them on Instagram. Like I'm still a fanboy where I'm like, oh my God, I follow those people, but they don't know who I am. But I just like, you meet people. It's people you only get to see you once or twice a year. And it's just super fun. So like if you're coaching or lifting and it's your first nationals, American Open, like go watch some of your favorite lifters. If you have favorite lifters, watch the back room, especially. I thought that was actually, I don't know if we're ever going to go back to it where the warm up was on the side of the platform. That was weird.
That was weird.
But I thought it was actually kind of cool that like, if you really want, like if you're a weightlifting nerd and you want to like watch the warm ups and the mindset and like the way coaches interact with their athletes, like it's a great learning opportunity because it's not something you get to see in the background. If you're just like somebody who's there to support your sister or something, like you don't really care. But if you're a weightlifting nerd, like it's cool to watch that interaction or to see the back room. Like if you can weasel your way back there to watch some of the interactions, I think that's a good opportunity to learn. I saw in the email that was sent out, like the shadow opportunity for women's coaches. I think that's fantastic.
There were a bunch of new things this year.
Yeah. I think that's super cool. I think the education for coaches, like,
yes,
I certainly don't think I know everything. I learn something every time I talk to a new coach. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like years ago, I thought no feet work was stupid. Like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm like, why? Like everything I'm trying to do is to get them to move their damn feet and to be more aggressive in their pull. I was like, no feet work is stupid. I'm never going to program that. And then I was like, you know what? I think it might work for this particular instance. And like it started clicking. And then I gave it to other people and I was like, okay, I was wrong. That's actually helped a lot of technical stuff, despite being something that I wouldn't inherently coach. So like you just learn stuff, you talk shop and you just figure out like, okay, I either like that or I don't like that. Same thing. Like if you're an athlete, like in your session, do your thing, but like watch how other people are approaching the bar. Like maybe something will click. You can talk to them about their mindset. Like, what are you thinking when you're at the chalk bowl? What are you thinking when you're walking up the stairs? Some people they just turn it off and turn it on. Like I remember in Troy's session, like I think it was Matt Rattay, like just super loud and having fun and joking around. And like, if you're somebody who's like locked in and centered, that's really annoying.
Yeah.
Like he's having a great time. He's slinging weights and he was a freaking beast, man. So everyone has a different approach. You can be loud and outgoing and like enjoying yourself, and you can be locked in and robotic. It's just whatever works for you and your mindset. You got to play with it and figure out what works.
Awesome. Well, Christian, thank you so much for joining us today. Abby, anything before we head out?
Nope.
All right. Christian and I will see everybody in Colorado Springs. Abby's going to do that live stream of the live stream thing we talked about, the Inception live stream.
That's cool.
Of broadcasting for USA Nationals. JP will be fine with it. Don't worry about him. Just do it. We'll ask him for forgiveness later. It'll be fine. But we will have a report on how everybody did at Colorado Springs on our next podcast. Until then, everybody have a great week, and we'll see you later.